Come back to this tutorial still with your favorite tutor on web development course coming to you from Edenite Technologies. All right. Following this table of contents we have here on this navigation bar on the sidebar you're seeing here, we've gone through in the previous video typography, semantics, CSS basics, CSS layout techniques, as well as flexbox model. The last video was on positioning in CSS. Positioning. In this video, we are delving into gaining a mastery over CSS grid layout. Wow. What do you think this CSS grid layout is all about? Okay, let's pay attention. CSS grid layout is a two-dimensional layout system, meaning that it works simultaneously on both rows and column, unlike the flexbox, which is primarily handled or it handles a one-dimensional layout. Okay, now in CSS grid, we will see that it allows for a precise control over layout structures. It is great, it's a great layout property that helps one to create a complex designs with ease, and it works very well in web responsive layout. All right, it works well with responsive design. Now let's quickly create an HTML CSS grid. Let's dive in and see what we can achieve with it, as well as develop a real world project. And at the end of this course, I'll be expecting you to be able to integrate this CSS grid layout tutorial on this video with what we've been learning in the previous videos. For instance, you should be able to blend CSS grid layout with positioning, with flexbox model, as well as typography and semantics. All right. So hit the notification bell as usual. If you're just watching it, this is the first video you're watching, I still encourage you to go back to the previous video, stay put. Grab your cup of coffee and let's dive into the CSS grid layout. All right. Okay, let's create an HTML file. Let's name it CSS grid layout.html. I will still be using inline internal CSS for this work, to style this work, because I won't be doing much. All right. So a quick one, create the HTML basic structure. Let's name this CSS. Sorry about that. CSS grid layout. May I use the main to name the box that will be holding the entire grid layouts? I can as well decide to name it using a div with a class name .container. So either I use this div or I use the semantic tag main. All right. It's still having the class container. So inside this main container, I'm gonna create about 5 or 6 more boxes using div that will have a class name item. Let me name it grid item. All right. Let this be 1. I'll copy this into about maybe 5 more places, or even 8 more places. Let's have 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. I do not need this part. So as usual, let's load this on the live server. I will always say, in case you are unable to load your codes on the live server, copy it by right-clicking here and copy the path, paste it on the search engine of your browser, and then you'll be able to view it. But let me still load mine on the live server, open with live server. It opens using Microsoft Edge, and I don't like using this Microsoft Edge. So let me still go back to what we have here. I'll paste it here. What you're seeing here is still what you're seeing here. All right. So this is still CSS Grid placed side by side on our with our browser. Now, what the next thing I want us to do is to use the style tag for the internal CSS styling. Let's call this container. Let's call the container to style it and give it the styling it should take. Either I call it with the tag name main, or I call it with the class name dot container, whichever one it works. The most important thing, the first thing I need to do here is to say display grid. Display grid. And the next thing is to say grid, very important, grid template columns. Grid template columns. What do I want here? I want it to use 3 columns of equal size that could adjust simultaneously or adjust at ease. So what I want here now is to say repeat 3 columns that has 1 full row. You could see it immediately. Now I need to add background color to this so that you could see it. Background color. Let me use as FOFOFO. This is a little, yeah, that's good. You may not see it, you may see it still. Let me give it a padding of about 10 pixels all through, both top and bottom, left and right. All right, our layout is looking demure. Let me increase or maximize this page so you see it. You can't see the grid layout now until I add it by calling those grid item. All right, so let's call grid item now. Remember, is this class grid item dot grid item. Okay, so for the grid item, let's give it a background color. Each of them should have background color of, maybe let's use steel blue. That would be nice. Okay, then there should be a gap. There should be a gap of about 10 pixels. But before that, let me add padding to each of these boxes. So instead of me to use gap, let me just use padding of about 15 pixels. 15 pixels. Then let me increase the font size to about 1.2 rem. I would like the color to be white. And then make it bold. Let me center it. So text align should be center. So text align center. All right. All I need now is to add the grid gap here. So grid gap. Let's call it gap. Grid. A gap of about 10 pixels will do. You could see it. Now let me increase this page. Supposing I want to adjust this page, when I inspect, you could see all of them adjusting automatically. Very dimensional. This is what grid layout could do, appearing like this, like calculator. So it reduces even to the most minimal. It is very much mobile responsive. If you want to view it on smaller screen, it could appear like this. On bigger screen, on tablet, it could appear like this. And then on Windows, your Mac. So this is very much important in your workspace using grid layout. And it's very good you gain mastery over this. Okay, supposing I decide to modify what I have by reducing this, instead of 3 columns, I decide to use 2 columns. And in the 2 columns, I might decide to say 1 full row, 2 FR. This is a case whereby you might be having on your web page the sidebar here and then the main page here. So this one is 1 full row here, and this is 2 full row. That is times 2. 2 times 1 of the other. So the full row means that it should cover the entire space. It should cover the entire space. Now in this case, I'm having 2 rows. I mean 2 columns. 2 columns. I could decide to also add grid template rows. Let the grid template rows be 100 pixels, 200 pixels. You can see the effect. 100 pixels, 200 pixels. Let me increase this page so that you see it all the more. All right. So from this, you would see that the important thing you need to know is the grid template columns and the grid template rows. What they do, the columns define the column, the grid template rows define the rows. Let me comment this and let's create about 3 different rows, 3 different columns that are not equal. You could see it. Here is 1 FR, 2 FR on the center, and then 1 FR at the extreme end here. So you could as well do this on the header of your page, whereby the logo is having 1 FR, the search button on the center is having 2 FR, and then the other part is having 1 FR. The important thing about this is that it makes your page very much responsive, that is fits in on any screen, whether mobile screen, tablet, or Windows, larger screen. All right. Having used this and gone through this, I would want us to create a a real world project, that will show us how, like a wireframe, a landing page of your website. Stay tuned. And at the end of this work, I'm going to give you an exercise and I'm hoping that you're going to do it and do it very well. Okay. All right. For this real world project, I'm going to comment this part so that as well as this, so that we have nothing displayed on our page. So let's take it from the beginning. Okay. All right. So in the HTML, I want us to use a div. Let me name this layout. Layout. And inside this layout, I want to create different boxes using the semantic tag header. Let this be header. A quick one. Let me create this as a side. So there is going to be the sidebar. So sidebar. Then let here be the main content. And let it be content. And then the footer. Just a quick one. Footer. All right. This is the structure we have. We're going to use grid to make this look very much dynamic and responsive. All right. In this case, I will call the layout to give it its own properties. I'll display it as grid, which is the first thing we need. You could call grid template columns, grid template rows, grid cap, and everything. If you don't display it as grid, the effect will not be seen. All right. So after having displayed it as grid, I would want us to add grid template columns as usual. Let's make this 1FR, 3FR. All right. Then let the grid template rows be 80 pixels. Let's use author and then 60 pixels. So I think that will do it, give us what we want. And then let there be a grid gap of about 10 pixels. Grid, I'll just say gap. 10 pixels. All right. One other important thing I want us to add here will be grid template areas. Grid template areas. So let these grid template areas be not none for now. Here would be header. Then would have, let me copy this into 3 more places. Maybe you've never come across this before now. Just pay rapt attention. This is meant for you, to guide you, to gain hands-on experience. I want to name this as sidebar. Then name this part as content. Then here will be footer. And this footer as well. All right. This having been said, let's delve into calling the semantic tags we have here, beginning with the header. So for the header, I would want you to take grid area. For the header should be, let it take header. And then you see the effect when I add a background color to it. Background should be, let's use navy. navy. It has taken the entire space. Supposing I comment this part, yeah. So I would want it to have a white color. So color should be hash FFF. Let's give it a padding of about 10 pixels too. 10 pixels. And then font weight should be bold. You are familiar with these ones. So, but the most important thing I want you to understand is what I'm going to do at the end. So just stay with spread out attention. Having added this on the header, let's call the aside, which is the sidebar. I'm also going to give this one its own grid area. Let the grid area be sidebar. Sidebar. I hope you're following now. Then let it have a background of dark gray. Background, dark gray. Dark gray. That should be hash 888 when you put it. Okay. Still this dark gray. Then let's address the main content. Let the main content have just similar to this aside so that it will play side by side here. So let me call the main and then let it take content. And then I'll make this to be light gray. Light gray. So that we'll see the difference between the main and then the aside bar. All right, having started the main, let's delve into the footer. I would like to copy what I did on the header so that we'll just change few things for the content of the footer. So here, footer, then the grid area should be footer. Meanwhile, I've noticed that it's not yet giving me what I want. It's not yet giving the dynamics that is expected. Now, I just found out the mistake we are making here. Let me cut this. I'm only cutting it to change it to be what it's supposed to be. We're having grid columns 2 times. This part is supposed to be grid template rows, all right? Grid template rows. 80 pixel, auto, 60 pixel. Grid template rows. And here, grid template columns. All right. Anyway, I just noticed this not giving me what I'm expecting. But then let's remove this CSS property that is there. Let me just delete it. I expect you should be having similar interface as I have it now on your home page. I expect you should be having what I have here now. So what I mean is when you increase this page, it is taken for granted that this should be your sidebar that contains, for instance, what I have here. This one on the side, on the left pane of your page. And then this entire page is the content of your work. So I did this one you're seeing here with Flex, but using Grid, CSS Grid, could see how it could be more dynamic, more responsive, and user friendly. What? Grid is really what it is. Okay. So the exercise I want you to perform at the end of this, because we've come to the end of this course. Remember where we started, how we developed about 9 different boxes that could resize and adjust accordingly. At this point, this is giving a framework, a wireframe of a real world project, whereby your header could be stretching from the beginning to the end, the footer is stretching from the beginning to the end. Remember, in the exercise you'll be performing, try to integrate the position attributes we did here to fix the header, and then make the sidebar to be sticky and give a higher or bigger height for the main content so that it could stretch up and down. Let me show what I'm talking about. Go to the main, maybe give it a height of about 150 VH. You could see it stretching. Let me close this. You could see it stretching. And the sidebar is stretching together with it. All right. Try this. Show me what you have. Thank you for paying attention to this point. Hit the notification bell. Bye.